Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going through a series of video presentations I'm creating based off of the PowerPoint presentations for Murox, HTML5, and CSS3, and Murox, JavaScript, and jQuery 3rd edition. These two books are used for the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Web Development 1000 Web Development Technologies class. So I've done all 20 of the chapters in the Murox, HTML5, and CSS3 4th edition. So I've made presentations based on all 20 of those chapters. And I'm doing these, as I oftentimes do, in a little bit different order. So I've done chapters 1 to 7 and 13 through 15 in here. So I'm going to do 16, 17, and 18, then come back and finish up with 8 through 12. So I'm now up to chapter 16, which is on how to work with arrays. So I will be doing that chapter right now. All right, so we talk all about arrays, including associative arrays, how to create arrays, what an array index is, the array length property, using a for an array, using a for in for an array, some of the array methods, including push, pop, unshift, shift, splice, slice, concat, join, isArray, index of, and last index. Talking about how to sort arrays, how to use split on an array, and tell the difference between an array, an associative array, and an array of arrays. All right? When you create a new array, there are different ways that you can do it. Here are a couple of them. So I could say, for example, if I wanted to create an array of test grades, I could say var test grade array equals new array, and I can give it a length. Or I could have just said var test grade array equal bracket bracket, and then fill it up as I get going. Okay? So here's a couple examples. In the first case, I've got a numeric array with 4 values. In the second case, I've got a string array with 3 values. You can, C-A-N, mix and match. So I could have put all these in the same array. So for instance, let's say that these were test grades and they were out of 15. I could have said Grace, then 14.95 Charles, 12.95 Ada, 11.95, and then add me and put Jeff, 9.95 as an example. When you refer to an element or a piece of the array, you give the name of the array and then in brackets the index. That's the number between 0. So in this case, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 elements. I'm sorry, 4 elements. And here it's 0, 1, 2. There's 3 elements. So using this sub 2 refers to the third element, 0, 1, 2. Using this refers to the second element, 0, 1. All right. Now, notice here, when you do this, as it says, the array starts, if I were to print this right here, it would print out undefined. Because I'm creating a new array, but I'm not initializing it. I'm initializing it below. Why would you want to do something like that? Well, let's look at this example here. I could say var names, and I could ask all the people in the class what's their name. So the first person could be John, the second person might be Chase, the third person might be Abby, etc. When you work with arrays, you can use the length method. So if I've got 10 elements in an array, elements 0 through 9, and I use the length property, it'll give me back 10. I can use the delete operator to remove things that are in an array. This is kind of neat. What this will do right here, this second line, regardless of the length of the array, remember since it's 0 base, that's 0, 1, 2, 3. So this will, but there are 4 elements. So this will say element 4 will be a 5. So you'll now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can add an element in a certain place. Notice by doing this, 0, 1, 2, 3, and we're putting in 6, so 4 and 5 become undefined. You can delete elements at a specific position. And notice once you do that, 0, 1, 2, That removes this one, so now it's 1, 2, undefined 4. I don't use delete much like that with arrays. By setting the length equal to 0, you, in essence, remove everything that was in the array. Here's an array where we put something in the first, in the 0th element, and we put something in the 1000th and first element, so there would be 999 undefined ones in between. Arrays are oftentimes used with loops, as you can see right here. In many ways, arrays and loops work hand in hand with one another. So here we're filling up an array with numbers. Here we're displaying those numbers. Could have done those in the same loop as well. You'd have to write it a little differently, but you could have done that. Figuring out the sum, figuring out the average, we do a lot of this kind of stuff in class. Now, there's a built-in loop that's called a for-in loop that you can use to work with an array. So if the idea is you only want to print them out or whatever, if you use this special kind of for loop, you cannot change the values in the array in the loop. But if all I want to do is print them out, this is an easier way to do it. For var index, what's index? It's a name I made up. You could have said var Ralph right there, and then you would have put Ralph here. All right? So the difference is between using for and for-in loops. Okay? They're showing it right here. We go into this in class. Okay. The array object has a lot of different things that you can use to work with it. And I hate to keep beating the same drum, rather. But if I go back again, and I go back to Hunlock here, again, look at the top. JavaScript arrays. Virtually everything that's in this chapter, including examples, are shown in here. So now they're going to talk about some of the array methods. If you look at things like push and pop, etc., keep going, keep going. There they are. There's pop, there's push, etc. Typically, when you highlight one of them, at least I thought that it would bring up an example. I could be wrong in here. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but I think maybe that's it. There's examples underneath. So if I come in here and I go down far enough, there's pop. And it shows you exactly what it does. Again, my goal right now is to not go through these code examples because, and this is no saying nothing bad about anyone watching this, but the chances of you remembering all this stuff probably are pretty remote. Okay, I don't know what just happened there, but I lost what I was working on. All right, I'm going to restart my program. Hopefully it'll bring that back up again. It's probably something I did. I just wasn't paying as much close of attention as I should have been. All right, so I don't want 17, I want chapter 16. And I was on around slide 22, I believe. All right, so here's again some of the methods that are supported by the array object. And they give some examples of these as well. All right. Adding things to arrays, removing things from arrays, filtering arrays. Then they go back to the task list, which we discussed earlier, but now they're using an array to store the tasks. So the idea when you work on something like this is as you go on, hopefully at least, it'll make more and more sense. All right? Okay. You can work with strings and arrays. You could turn an array into a string. You could turn a string into an array using split. It's known as basically imploding an array or exploding an array. Associative arrays, this is not a bad example, but let's look at this. let's imagine, I'm going to use one of my own examples here. I like using this one. I think it makes even more sense than what the author has here. So let's assume that I have 4 states. So I'm going to create an array, and I'm going to say var Midwest states equal, and I'm just going to put in here Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois. I'll put it 5. Michigan, whoops, sorry. So Michigan, and we'll put in Minnesota. Now you'll notice, if you look here, I didn't put them in alphabetic order. I did that on purpose. The other way I could have set this up is I could have said Midwest states 0 equals Missouri, and then I could have said 1 equals Wisconsin, etc. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. All right? But the problem is I have to remember 0 is Missouri, 1 is Wisconsin, 2 is Illinois, 3 is Michigan, 4 is Minnesota. Well, what if I don't want to do that? And the thing is, I don't have to. I can say this again. So I'm going to just copy this whole thing. And we'll make this one will be Midwest States 1, and this will be Midwest States 2. So I'm going to say here, MO, and I believe that's the right syntax. We'll check it out in just a minute. Again, if I'm giving you the wrong syntax, we'll come back and fix it. But notice what we have then when we do this is rather than referencing, all right, rather than referencing these things using a number, we're going to use an abbreviation. This is called an associative array. Let's check and see if I use the right syntax or not. All right. Well, they're not showing it, setting it up the way that I would set it up. I believe that what I've shown you is correct. Now, if I want to know for sure, well, remember one way I can do that is to go back to Hunlock here. And I can check, is there anything in here on an associative array? I don't know. Support associative arrays. Well, the way that they're referring to it is not the way that I refer to it. All right. We could do it like that too, where again we would be coming in here and instead of showing it to you like this, I could have also said like Midwest states 2 MO equals Missouri. Hopefully you get the idea. Instead of using numbers here, all right, for our indices, we're using strings, all right. Makes your program a little bit more self-documenting, if nothing else. All right. Use for in loops with those. You can have an array of arrays. I'm always amazed when people tell me I don't understand what an array of arrays would be. And then I ask them, have you ever used Excel? Yeah. That's a two-dimensional array. You go along here, you got rows. You go along here, you've got columns. If I go back to the beginning here, you'll notice that I'm in A1. That's the intersection of column A and row 1, or row 1 and column A. It's the same kind of thing when you work with a two-dimensional array in a programming language, except both the rows and the columns start at 0. So this would be location row 0, column 0, row 0, column 1, row 1, column 0, etc. So they do the task list, and now notice there's a due date on it. All right, and they're storing again the stuff again in local storage. I believe that pretty much is the rest of the chapter. Then they enhance it where you can add a specific task. You can highlight a task in here and delete just one task, or delete them all. All right. So that's pretty much it for this chapter. I'm not sure exactly what happened right there, but that pretty much is it for the chapter. Okay, so when I come back again, I'm going to go through chapter 17, which may be my last one for the day, I don't know, and that's on how to create and use your own objects. So I'll be back with that presentation shortly.